Okay, now I want to make sure I'm lining up with the linear rails and not screwing up this time. Alright, yeah, show you this end. Okay, man, moment of truth. Well, that's looking good. Bueno. Okay. Nice. Very nice, very nice, very nice. So this is fun. I accidentally slid the linear bearing off the end of the rail and it dropped on the floor and a bunch of bearings popped out. And so I just finished sweeping the floor with a magnet, putting everything in a pile, and then sifting through the pile very carefully to find a bunch of ball bearings. So then I took some tweezers and stuffed the balls back in the bearings until they were full, and I have balls left over. So what I remember was I was messing around with one of these ones, just kind of testing things out and playing with it, and I slid it, and it went halfway off the end and slid right back. And I says to myself, uh-oh, but it felt fine, so I didn't think anything of it until now. So I think maybe this one here might be missing some balls. So I think I might pull that one off and just double check and make sure here. Anyway, let's see if we can get this one back on the other rail anyway. All right, so that's got it. I got these things mounted on here. Everything slides real nice with the bearings back in here. Feels good. So I'm happy with that. Now, of course, I'm probably going to have to loosen all these bolts and reset them, because once I bolt these little bearings onto the backing plate for the Z-axis is going to go on there. They are going to be very rigid and will not allow for any movement back and forth. So I will probably have to loosen up one rail with these things mounted and then slide it down and tighten it as I go along, just so that sets the spacing between the rails. But for the time being, that looks really good. Oh yeah, and I gave this a sanded finish with a DA sander. kind of hide some of the scratches in my piece of aluminum there, sort of. Looks kind of cool. I think that'll contrast well with the rest of the table there. So next step, let's get this thing mounted on there. Make sure it all works right. All right, there we go. Got it all mounted up. It's looking good. So something to point out here. So I just got a couple of M8 bolts on each end, and I purposely made this tab pretty light, like it's just 1/8 inch there, and no bracing at all. So there's a little bit of flex in this thing. We go back and forth. So that's intentional. It travels pretty good on its own. But the idea, so this was intentional here. My idea was that I wanted this to be really light duty so that there was some flex engineered in here so that the stepper motors control squareness of this thing and keep it square as it's working. So there'll be some limit switches here at the end that each time this thing will bump into and pick up a 0, and that'll square it, and then from there the stepper motors will control keeping this thing square without fighting too much rigidity here. If I made this like super rigid and it wasn't perfectly square, then I would have no way to really adjust it. So that's my theory anyways. We'll see how it turns out. Maybe I'm totally wrong about this and I should have made it super rigid, but anyway. I think this will work. So pretty happy with this. It's looking pretty good. It's starting to look like something. Next step here is going to be to make the backing plate that those things bolt onto, which will mount the rest of the Z-axis. So let's grab some aluminum and get to work. All right, got the backing plate done. Everything slides very nicely. I loosened off all the rails and then tightened them as I moved this thing along, and it made almost no difference. So those were pretty much lined up perfectly already. It is so nice and smooth, like there's some drag on there, but it is dead even all the way across, so that's going to work very nicely. Okay, let's start making the rest of the frame now. Okay, just finished doing the bottom holes and the holes on the top. That's them there and there. So next step here is going to be, I'm going to drill those 2 holes in the front. And after I'm done that, I'll reset it up and start doing those cutouts in here. I'll figure out how I'm going to do that yet. But right now I need to grab a square and get that. Boy, that's quite the glare, huh? Sunny day. It's a shame to be stuck inside in the shop. Yeah, I'm not quite lined up there yet, so I'll grab a square, line that up, and then we'll get to work. Okay, I got most of the profiling all done. Well, I do have the profiling done. I was finding an end mill that gave me a good surface finish. That one got chowdered up over on the other side pretty good, but I think that part's going to get hidden behind the drag chain, so not a big deal. Finally got it on the last cut. So just 2 more holes left to go in here, and these parts are going to be done. All right, got the pieces done. Did a quick test fit here. Threw a couple bolts in, make sure things line up all right. It's looking pretty good. This is the part that gets welded right there. And up top here, for some reason, I got a couple holes that are out by 100 thou. I don't know how I screwed that up, but I did. So I think I'm just going to walk that countersink in the hole over a little bit, which will allow me to clamp that in the right place. Other than that, it's looking pretty good so far. Very happy with that. So next bit here now is going to be to make the top and bottom plates. Those are another couple pieces of 1/2 inch, which are going to be the parts that grab the linear rail for the Z axis. So that'll be the next part here. Let's get going on that. All right, just finished machining these out, and I got my sample rod here. These are going to be the linear rails that the Z-axis slides on. This is my clamping here. Oh yeah, that is great. Looking good. That's going to be awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so that's the top one. The stepper motor mounts right there. And now I just got to do the bottom one. Well, let's make another. There we go. I got that profile done. That looks a lot better. What I got here is these 10 mil linear bearings that are going to slide on this shaft, and those get mounted in through here, so sort of like that. My machining is much better than this stuff, so its sides aren't parallel. This is asymmetric. I might have to, yeah, see, it's 1/2 mil wide at that end. Good there. Actually underside. But definitely wide there. So I'm going to have to machine the parts to fit. Very nice. We're getting close. All right. Just got these ones finished here. They are looking nice. Very nice. So these form the carriage for the Z-axis. So there'll be some linear bearings in here and rods that slide back and forth. This takes the ball screw nut for the Z-axis and pushes everything up and down. So next I got a couple little blocks that go in here, a block and a plate. So I will start on making that now. There we go. That pretties things up a little bit. Nice. Time to install these linear bearings. Unfortunately, some of the machining on these things wasn't very accurate, and I noticed we had like a 0.5 millimeter of difference out of squareness on these, so hopefully they're going to fit. All right. It actually worked. Okay, let's go find some screws for those. So something is not in line here and not working out. Both bearings slide fine on here, but as soon as I try to put them both on, there's some incredible binding in there. These slide just fine. I was messing around a whole bunch with this, pressing in this nut, and I ended up screwing up the nut by trying to press it into the hole because this thing wasn't big enough, and so I was pressing it on the hydraulic press. These things did move a little bit, so I'm worried that maybe I screwed them up somehow here in the process of doing the pressing. These are sleeves that are pressed into this square base at the bottom. So I've got a couple more linear bearings I'm going to try here. Maybe that'll correct the issue. So yeah, as soon as I loosen up the screws on the bottom of these things, this thing slides way better. Still a little binding, but way better than before. So it's definitely the bearings that are screwed up there. Let's go get a couple new ones. There we go. Looking good. And it is looking great. Let's get that installed. So that's got her all mounted up here. Everything slides pretty nice. The driven part here at the bottom has a little bit of stiction down towards the bottom, but that's going to be driven by the lead screw here anyway, so I'm not too worried. That'll break in good here yet. So I got, and of course I mounted it in there backwards. I got to pull that out and flip that around. There's supposed to be a couple holes here, which are on the back side, kind of akin to that, which mount the limit. There's a little limit switch that goes in there to sense when it touches off. So I got to flip that around yet, but oh well. I got to pull it out anyways in order to install the nut on the bottom. There's a lead nut that gets driven by this. It screws into the bottom there. I did press that in originally, and I had my bore a little bit too tight, and I ended up screwing up that soft brass. It was enough that it actually compressed it, and it wouldn't go onto the shaft anymore. So I got another couple of those on order. So in a few days, I'll have that, and I can mount that up and get it working properly. So next step here is torch mount. So I got to make a little rod and some clamps and whatnot for that. And then I think that wraps up the aluminum. That'll be about it. So I've got, what do I got left here? I got some stepper motors I got to install there and here. And I got to make up some little pulleys. Oh yeah, those are going to be aluminum too. So yeah, a few little more bits of aluminum. And this window here, that's actually going to mount the drag chain, and I'm probably going to have like a big piece of aluminum that goes over top to support the drag chain here. See if I can throw that in there. I haven't even test fit this to see if that's going to work. Oh yeah, perfect. That'll fit right in there like so. Very nice, very nice. Actually, that worked out better than I was expecting. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, so I probably I gotta have something to support this end of it. So I'm thinking like there's gonna be some sort of a channel or something, or rails or something that go across the top there. Big U-shaped frame that goes over top. I guess I'll need to mount that into here somehow or something. I'll figure it out. Oh, maybe I can use these holes. I can mount it off of that probably. Like a rod that comes up. I don't know, something like that. I'll figure it out. So yeah, let's go and make that torch clamp now. All right, got this together. I got the torch holder bar and the clamps all done there. That turned out beautifully. Real happy with that. Oh, I got it in backwards. Those countersinks are supposed to be on the backside because the bolts are going to come through to clamp the torch body. So I got this set up with a pair of holes there. Two pairs of holes, I should say. And that I'm going to have a block at the bottom, block halfway up. That's, of course, for a machine torch. You know, the long, skinny, straight ones, and I can make a separate block for the bottom here if I wanted to just throw in like a handheld torch sort of thing. Still undecided about exactly which plasma cutter I'm going to get, but I do know for sure I'm going to get one of those machine torches for this thing. So that's got that all together, and that basically wraps up this week. Next step here, let's see, I got a little bit more aluminum work. I just got to make some pulleys for the drive belts. So that'll be the last bit of aluminum on this, other than the torch holders there. So yeah, that wraps her up for this week.